Okay, can you see my screen now? Thank you for confirming that, Mr. Ayawon. So for today, we're going to be discussing about evidence of prehistoric science and technology. Okay. Now, although you are aware of this one, since you have been discussing this over time, okay. So there are actually three time zones pagdating sa prehistoric. Ano ba yung mga time zones ng mga prehistoric men during before? Yung meron tayong tinatawag na Stone Age, you have the Brass, and then the Iron Age. The Bronze Age rather. Okay? So yeah. So for today, simulan natin muna sa Stone Age. Okay? Now, take note that during the Stone Age, so anong ginagamit nila? So syempre, alam niyo naman, ang ginagamit nila ay bato. Okay? Anong klaseng pamumuhay meron ang mga to? Meron ba silang laptop na ginagamit, Mr. Ayawon? O ano,
Wala po.
ano sa ang suot-suot nila? John Ivan. Meron, ano suot-suot nila? Meron ba silang Nike or can you describe?
Po, ma'am.
Ano, nakahubad lang sila? Ha?
Hindi, ma'am.
Ano?
Bato lang po yung mga ginagamit nila sa
Damit, damit, damit. Bato,
ay
gamit,
damit
damit,
po.
damit, damit.
Mga leather.
May leather na ba noon? Sa
Hindi,
tingin mo,
ma'am, yung ano, sa balat. Mga balat ng hayop. Hayop. Balat ng hayop,
ayan.
ma'am.
Sige. Sige, thank you for answering that. Wait lang ha. Pull up ko lang yung inyong... Okay. Yan. Okay. So, yan. So, yes, that's correct. So, usually they utilize balat ng hayop as alternative clothes. But at this point, all those peoples are usually what we call food gatherers. They have existed around 3.4 million years ago. Okay? Now, since they were, oh, ito na yung picture. Huwag nyo nang tingnan kung sino sa classmate niyo ang kamukha nila. Okay? But take note that during this time, yung mga ginagamit nila ay mga gawa sa bato, may mga pangalan sila. But before we go into that one, let me just introduce you yung dalawang predominant na species ng tao during that time. Okay? So you have there, si, ano to? Teka lang. Yan, si Paranthropus at saka si Australopithecus. Okay? Hmm. So nakikita ninyo na si ano, Paranthropus ay medyo malaki ang kanyang mukha. No, kaya malaking mukha niya kasi malaki siya, stocky. May say stocky, malaking unggoy or malaking tao. While the other one, si Australopithecus, is medyo slim. Okay? And if you're going to look it up, si Australopithecus is actually a part of the Paranthus family. Okay? Now, ano pa yung ano nila? Yung kanilang ulo, okay, meron siyang crack dito sa may ulo nila. Yan. And yung design niya, and then at the same time, yung kanyang baba. Okay, kaya mapapansin nyo that if you're going to look here, open ko lang yung screen mo ko, wait lang. Yan. So, yan. So, if you're going to look here, well-defined yung jawline niya. Parang mapanga. Okay, parang hindi naman babalo. Iba yung babalo guys. Mapanga lang. Alam mo yun, pwede kang kumat na sa baba niya. Okay? And then at the same time, they have larger teeth and molars because of the large jaw. While on the other hand, for the Australopithecus, they are slender people. Then yung kanilang toe is forward pointing. So yan, kasi 'di ba alam niyo yung itsura ng paa ng unggoy, 'di ba? Parang kamay din 'yan. But this time medyo nag-evolve na konti. And then at the same time yung paglakad nila, yan. So medyo meron silang heel strike. So yung ano niyan, hindi siya parang kamay na naglalakad, more on paa na talaga. So yung mismong heel talagang umaano na. Okay? And at the same time, in terms of ngipin nila, mas maliliit na yung ngipin nila kumpara doon sa Paranthropus. So, pag mga payat-payat, it's Australopithecus. Pag mas malalaki, dito yung Paranthropus. Okay? So, yan. Now, In regards to the characteristic of their technology during the time, so ito yung tinatawag nating Pebblestone tradition. So when you see Pebblestone tradition, surely they have came up with ways on nag-evolve sila ng sarilang tools from the stones itself. So usually chop up lang nila yung gilid ng mga stone. Okay, so they have hand axe traditions. They have also developed flake tools. Flaking yung para ano, para pambalat. Okay, and then also yung mga blade tools. Okay, so example nun is the Odloan para, and then the Achillean. So ito po yung itsura ng mga ano ito. So these are your flake tools. So if you will notice, these are all stones. Okay? And this is an example of an Oldowan. Okay? So bato siya na pinupok nyo lang ng isa pang bato to have those sharp part. Ito talagang finashion na to into something that is used for cutting. Okay? Yan. And at the same time, they have already, because of those items that they have created, they have come up with some spears, harpoons, needles, thread fishing, and this is also known as the later on, since hindi naman 100% all throughout the season, ando dun yung mga hayop. Kumbaga, some of the animals tend to migrate. So, they tend to be seasonal. So, this is actually the time during particularly the Mesolithic part of the Stone Age wherein uh, they have a decline in group hunting of large animals. So, medyo ano na sila, may specific na silang pinapaboran ng mga hayop. Okay? And at the same time, they have developed special weapons as mentioned earlier. Okay? So tingnan nyo dito. This is an example of what they have fashioned out of. Okay, dikdikan. Yan. Now, so to give you a little bit information, the next age is the Neolithic. So this is actually when we transition from nomadic to from hunters gatherers to
The
farmers. Okay?
prehistoric man lived for
Wait lang.
millions of
Asa na?
years as a
Wait lang
nomad.
guys. Wait lang.
His
Ayaw nyo.
community survived by
Uy. Yan. Ayaw mag-respond kasi. Wait lang ah. Technical issue lang. Yan.
The prehistoric man lived for millions of years as a nomad. His community survived by hunting and collecting fruit and roots. That is why men lived in constant migrations in search of food. But a revolution was about to start, which would forever change this old way of life. This revolution happened with the mastery of agricultural techniques. Man learned how to sow the land and reap the fruit of his work. This new habit allowed man to gradually settle down on his piece of land, leaving his nomadic ways behind. The first villages began to emerge near the floodplains of the rivers, as these were the most fertile land. Since most places where man settled down were not adequate to grow food throughout the year, man began to give preference to the cultivation of cereals, which, besides their nutritional value, could be stored for longer periods. However, some of these cereals were often attacked by pests and rodents. During that same historical period, man developed the ability to domesticate animals as well. The dog was one of the first to be domesticated, as it would be used as a working animal, helping to safeguard communities while engaging in hunting and livestock-related activities. Some basic requirements had to be fulfilled before an animal could be considered domesticated. It could not compete with humans for food. Therefore, animals that fed on grazing or leftovers would be the ideal option. Ideally, these animals could not feel panic easily. However, if that was not possible, they would have to behave like a pack when frightened. By forming large groups, they would be more easily controlled by their owners and their herding dogs. These animals were domesticated in order to provide food for men, having also to reach their adulthood rapidly, thus increasing their productivity. Both agriculture and livestock served other purposes besides food. The animal's leather was used for several different purposes, both for clothing and the production of other items. And animals, like sheep, besides providing meat and milk, also supplied their wool. Vegetables, like flax and cotton, were also grown to serve as fabric. These small villages started to produce surpluses, trading and exchanging their products with other villages. Commerce began to slowly emerge, getting increasingly common over time. The mastery of these technologies created the basic conditions for the emergence of the first cities.
Okay. So, yan yan. Okay. So, afterwards came the Neolithic. So, unang-una, during the Stone Age, you have the Meso, you have the Neolithic. So, this is actually when people were already settling down. They usually settle down on places wherein there would be adequate water supply for their farming. And then, it would be easy for them to gather the fruits of their, I mean, yung hindi naman siya yung madaling, how this, hindi naman siya bahain or very convenient for them and very conducive for their environment. Okay. Now, it made them to become a herding society. So when you're herding, yan yung mga nagpapastol. Okay, sa Tagalog. And then, this was also the start of the smelting. So they were already fashioning metal, so metallurgy already started in the Neolithic, and then they also started creating pots, okay, pottery and clay. Yung kanina, yung nakita natin sa, yung may dikdikan, yun po. Example na rin po yun. And then, they already processed wild grains. As mentioned in the video, they were already storing grains. Okay? In case, parang ano, for the rain, saving for the rainy day yan. Okay? And they also domesticate agriculture. So, as mentioned earlier, yung aso was originally um, wolves yan. Naging na-domesticate lang sila, kaya nag-evolve yung kanilang features. So, di ba alam niyo naman itsura ng mga lobo, di ba? Hindi si Lolong ha, yung lobo. Okay? So medyo matatalas yung kanilang mga ngipin, mas mahaba yung kanilang mga nguso, pero mas domesticated na yung dog. So medyo nabawasan na yung pagiging ano ng pangin nila, hindi na sila ganun ka-aggressive. Um, and in also based on theory, it was actually by accident. Okay, and using selective uh, breeding, they were able to develop the dogs, yung mga earlier men. So, pag medyo aggressive yung dog, papatayin nila yon. Tapos, kung mabait yung dog, yun yung pararamihin nila. Okay? So, yan. Now, next is the Bronze Age. Now, the Bronze Age is actually considered as the second principal period. Wait lang guys, palakihin ko to para, yan, yan, para hindi nagsisiksikan yung mga icons ko. Yan. So this is the second principal period. It started around third millennium before Christ. So that's 3,000 or 3 million years before Christ. Now there were actually three cities or locations where Bronze Age were evident. So unang-una is Sumeria sa may Middle East. Okay, so this is where people stayed in the um, Tigris and the Euphrates River. And dun sa society na yon, nagkaroon nga sila ng writing system and the invention of the wheel. We will actually be discussing that later on in the next meetings natin. Then afterwards, we also have Bronze Age in China. So sila naman, sa China naman, they settled around Yellow River during the Shang Dynasty and the Zhao Dynasty. So that's almost 2,000 years before Christ. It's 5,000 years ago. And then in Greece, before the Greek civilization and the Phoenician civilization came, the Phoenician ba yun? I forgot the term. Pero there came the Cycladic. So Cycladic were the ancient Greek or pre-Greek civilization. And they were the ones that existed during the Bronze Age. Okay, so those are the three Bronze Age civilizations. Okay, so how was bronze being created? So I have here a video regarding bronze. Okay, one moment.
What's more, they brought the art of smelting to the north. They added a vital secret from the Middle Eastern trading routes. Mix some tin to copper and you get bronze. This process was so important, the Smiths had the richest graves. They were probably clan chiefs.
At the beginning of the Bronze Age, you can imagine that much of the metalworking was actually undertaken by the chiefs themselves. And we now see this as a rather sort of banal task that should be undertaken by workmen or craftsmen, by sort of lower status people. But if you think of it as the magical transformation of one thing into another, then it's another way of showing off and demonstrating your power and your status and securing your role in society. And so it's therefore very characteristic that you find the moulds in rich graves, in the graves of the chiefs. So the people who are in charge of society are in charge of the transformation of ores into flashing daggers and weaponry. The Bronze Age consists in the introduction of edge weapons that you couldn't make effectively in stone, daggers that increasingly get longer and longer and become swords, spearheads that can be really effectively fixed on the end of a long pole. So the whole nature of armament was transformed by the introduction of a really effective working metal, bronze.
These weapons exude power. They are rare and dangerous. We are seeing the birth of a military elite with the power to get exactly what they want. Yet the weapons rarely show signs of use. Perhaps they were purely ceremonial. These leaders wore breastplates and decorative metal jewelry, again as symbols of their wealth.
Ayan. Okay, so here in this video, it just shows that people have learned how to, di ba, nag-start na sila mag-melt ng copper and they were able to find out that copper tends to oxidize. Kaya nga nagiging green yung kanyang mga copper wirings, yung mga copper statues natin. So by adding tin, it becomes a little bit stronger as well. Now, here are some of those remains of those Bronze Age metals. Yan. Okay. So here are more examples of that Bronze Age. Yan. Yan. Okay. Then you have now the Iron Age. Okay. So in the Iron Age, it started around 1200 BC and 600 BC. Now, people across Europe and Asia and parts of Africa began making tools from iron and steel. Okay. Now, aside from that, so a main component nila is iron, and which is at the same time, iron was actually not only used for warfare but also for farming. So here are more examples of iron products during that time. So ito mapapansin nyo guys, diba? This more or less looks like the uh, ano natin, yung mga piko, karit, ito karit, sickle is karit. Yung plow, ayan o, yung pambungkal ng lupa, 'di ba? Parang modern day items halos, mukha lang luma, pero that's the same thing as well. Okay? Para may place pa kayo dito. Yan. Okay? Okay. So here are some of the inventions during the Iron Age. So unang-una is cast iron. So this actually dates back in China around 8,000 years before Christ, according to archaeologists. And it actually paved way to a lot of development in China, particularly in the field of agriculture. So this is an example of a cast iron. Remember, yung ginagamit ng mga chef sa pagluluto, yan. So ganun din sa China. Okay? And they also use it to create the plow. Yung ginagamit, yung araro na hinihila-hila ni puti, yung kalabaw na si puti, yan. So yan ginagamit la para mabungkal yung lupa. Okay? Another metallurgy product during the ancient time was quenching. Now, quenching is actually a process when you have a molten metal, okay, so that it will become harder, mas matigas. Yun nga lang, since magiging mabilis yung pagpapalamig niya, nagiging mas dali siyang mabali. Okay, and that is called quenching. So if you will notice here, yan o, nagbabaga siya, tapos biglang lagay sa tubig. Yan. Mas magiging matigas siya. So this was actually developed in Europe and in Asia. Yan. Okay. So that is quenching. Now, another product is steel. So, medyo upgraded version to ng iron metals natin. So, it's usually, you have there a mixture of elements to make a stronger iron. Medyo, ano siya, mas less corrosion or slower ang corrosion kasi ng steel kaysa sa iron. Okay? So here are examples of steel during the ancient times, and this is actually the very Jericho sword. Okay, this is actually available in Israel Museum. Okay, so ito na yung actual, ganito siya kahaba na. Okay, so yan. So ganyan yung espada nila nung panahon na yon. Okay. Okay, then of course, coins, barya. So nag-start siya around 600 BC sa Lydia, somewhere in Turkey, in Anatolia. And it actually imprinted lions. And then later on, it was adapted by the Roman legions. And they were able to include now yung mga tao. So if you're going to look at the picture here, meron na siyang tao. Okay? And but later on, instead of using iron coins, nag-ano na sila sa silver and gold. Remember dun sa Bible, yung 30 pirasong pilak. Okay? So hindi na binitawan na nila yung bronze coins, naging silver and gold na. Okay? Then we also have rotary kernstone. Okay? Alam niyo yung paggawa ng galapong? Okay? Sino dito ang nakakain na ng palitaw? Palitaw. Taas ang kamay ng mga nagpapalitaw dyan. Palitaw, palubog. Naka-experience ng kumain ng palitaw. Yan. Okay. So, yung mismong ginagamit po doon, yung galapong na tinatawag is actually from, yung malagkit na dinurog. Okay. So, usually you grind grains and it will be in the powder form. So, you have 2 stones on top. Okay? And may butas yan. Diyan mo ngayon ihuhulog yung iyong mga grains. And then, iikot mo siya dito. Okay? So, here is a video. Yan. So, ito yan. Iikot niya lang yan. Ayan. Tapos, habang grain mo siya, lalabas sa gilid yung powdered items ninyo or yung powdered na grains ninyo. Okay? Yan ang ginagawa para makagawa ng arena. So, medyo maganda-ganda nga pa ang itsura ng kanyang cornerstone. Ito yung iba. Ito yung traditional. 2 malaking bato lang na semi-flat. Okay? So, here naman. Okay. So, these are the things that you need to remember for
Smile and learn.
metallurgy.
5 things you should know about the Age of Metals. Prehistory is divided into 2 major stages, the Stone Age and the Age of Metals that began 7,000 years ago, when humans started making metal objects. The Age of Metals was a true milestone in human history because metal tools were far more durable than stone tools. These new gadgets allowed men to hunt and cultivate the land more easily. This improvement in farming and agriculture resulted in having more food. That's why population increased. The Age of Metals is divided into the Copper Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. During the Age of Metals, early settlements and villages started to grow and slowly gave rise to the cities. These cities were normally located in areas with huge underground metal resources, and they were surrounded by high walls to protect them from enemies. Houses were made of stone or adobe, a mixture of mud and hay. These cities marked the beginnings of great civilizations in ancient history. This period in history is also marked by something of great significance: the first jobs and trades. People were now focusing exclusively on working in one particular trade area, like commerce, cattle raising, agriculture, pottery, or metal crafts. Metal was used as a raw material to make tools, weapons, or jewelry. Copper was the first metal people started to use, but it wasn't wear resistant. That's why they used it mainly to make jewelry, and to a lesser degree, for utensils and tools. Then people discovered bronze, a very hard metal. Sharpened bronze was used in making very useful hunting weapons. The last metal people discovered was iron. Same as bronze, iron was a very hard and wear-resistant metal. Using both bronze and iron, people made tools they used to work with, also weapons and even sculptures. To be able to mold metals, people melted them in ovens, heating them up in very high temperatures. Molten liquid metal was poured into molds, forming the desired shapes and creating different tools, utensils, and weapons. This process is known as metallurgy and took place during the Age of Metals. Nowadays, metallurgy is still considered to be one of the most important sectors in modern society. Thanks to metallurgy, the crafting trade started to bloom. Older inventions like the wheel or the sail were now being improved to give rise to the first means of transportation, like the carriage or the first sailing boats. Thanks to them, commerce and the trading of goods started to develop. Cities were growing and people started changing their lifestyle. The Age of Metals ends with the invention of writing. This is when great ancient civilizations start emerging. These are the 5 things you should know about the Age of Metals. Did you like learning about them?
Okay. Any questions so far, guys, before we go to um, our learning check? Question, Mr. Lacerna. You were raising your hand, Mr. Macapagal and Mr. Santos. Nakataas ang kamay? Ano yung tanong? Napindot lang. Mm-mm. Okay, so mag-ready po kayo. So usually tradition na gagawin natin is you're going to write the answers in our in-call messages. Okay? Sige po. So wala pong magtataas ng kamay. Just type it in the in-call messages. Okay? So let's start our learning check. Okay? So ayan. Ayan. Okay. Ayan. So this primitive man is described to have a stocky build, large teeth, and prominent sagittal crest. Sinong tao ito? Diba? Dalawa lang yung binigay ko example. Ay, sorry. Nabigay ko na kaagad. Sige na, type nyo na. Type nyo na lang, guys. Nabigay ko na yung sagot. Ayaw mo? Sulat nyo lang. Ayaw nyo. Ayaw yata ni John Ivan eh. Ikaw talaga. Sige na, nagkamali. Napindot ko kagad kasi ini-edit ko yung ano eh. Maingay kasi. Hintayin ko na lang kayo matapos. Yan. Okay, I think lahat nakasagot na. Let's move to the next one. So, next question. Okay. A timeline during the Stone Age which is associated with the decline of group hunting. May naghahunt pa pero simula na silang kumonte kasi yung iba nagbago na ng kanilang pamumuhay. Sino yung mga yon? Anong timeline pala to? Is it Stone Age? Is it Neolithic? Is it Mesolithic? Or is it Bronze Age? Or Iron Age? Ba't may nagtataas ng kamay? Okay. Sige, time nyo lang ng type yan. Okay. Sige, ang sagot ay Mesolithic. Okay. Next question. Ayan. Which three civilizations started during the Bronze Age? Kahit isulat nyo na lang yung bansa or yung lugar. Okay? Ano yun? By the way, guys, wrong spelling is wrong. Okay? Ano yung tatlong civilization na nagsimula during the Bronze Age? Ano yun? Sorry, nasa school kasi ako. Sige, Sumerian, China, may isa pa. Mhm. Okay. Sige. Mas maganda kung kompleto, di ba? Okay, lahat nakasulat na. So, ang tamang sagot ay, yan, Sumerians, Chinese or sa China, or Greek sa Cladit. Okay? So, yan po. Okay. Next question. Which Iron Age technology allowed iron weapons to become harder and brittle, which is done via rapid cooling of molten metal? Anong process yon sa minention ko kanina? Yung may lalaki na nagano, may dala-dala siyang nagbabagang bakal, tapos nilagay niya sa tubig. Okay? Hindi ko na patutog. Okay, so the answer is quenching. Okay. So, yan. Papakita ko sa inyo mamaya kung paano ko gigradean to. Okay? Okay, it says this is the last. Kasama natin to. Teka, double check ko lang guys. Wait lang. Last na natin tong learning check. Okay. So, this is a tool during the Iron Age wherein it is used to grind grain by hand. So, you have two stones on top. And then, meron kang iikutin mo ngayon siya. So, anong tawag nyo doon sa tool na yon? Okay? Ito ang ginagawa para makagawa ng galapong ngayon. Okay? Wala rin kayong sagot. Samantalang diniscuss, kasasabi ko lang yon. Okay. Nakalimutan ko magtugtog. Okay, so the answer is rotary kernstone. Okay, so let's see kung paano ba itsura ninyo, sagutin nyo. Okay. So yan. Daka.